While most agents chase the same pool of existing buyers, there is a massive untapped market of free undercover buyer leads that only a few agents know about.
Most agents think that working with renters is a complete waste of time because they take nearly as much time, if not more, than a buyer to actually work with.
We found a way to find highly qualified buyer leads through advertising for rental property.
In this video, we're going to show you the exact strategies that we have used to get high quality leads online for free that have converted into 6 figures in commission. All right, let's do it. Today, we're talking about how to get renters to buy, and we're going to kind of toss in some of the big changes, obviously, that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. And a proposed thesis really is ultimately what it is, with kind of like reaching out to these guys and understanding what opportunities could exist in the market. But I think it's important that if anybody is working with renters, like I believe it was either my first or second sale ever came from converting a rental lead into a buyer, because we actually get a lot more information from renters than we do usually even from just buyers or sellers, because they're submitting their full application, their letter of employment. Like, you understand exactly how much money they're making. Are they good with their money? Is there a possibility or a likelihood that this person could get approved for a mortgage? And you know that much before you can even have this conversation. So it's getting that information and analyzing that information and doing this in a more of a tactical way and not a salesy way, because it's very, it's very easy to come across as salesy. So we kind of wanted just to talk about that today, and making sure that you guys have the tools and knowledge to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, I think like the big mistake that a lot of agents make is someone tells them they want to rent and they just show them a bunch of rentals and they help them rent. But, as you said, renting isn't always what's best for people. It's just, for a lot of people, it's what they think is possible for them, or they've been misconstrued by social media or the news or whatever it may be. They follow Grant Cardone and they think they should rent for life, right? So I think really the big piece is having the systems in place to be able to have a conversation with renters, and how to identify renters who should probably be thinking about buying, or buying could even be an option for, right? The big mistake is wasting your time having these conversations that we're going to talk about today with people that don't qualify. And the great thing is if you're qualifying your renters properly up front, and we're going to give you these tips in a second here, you should know if they have the basic means to be able to qualify with the rental information that you get from them. And that's the great thing about working with renters, guys. One of the key pieces is, if you're working with renters in your CRM, you need to keep notes about all of this stuff we're going to talk about in a moment, because it will help you nurture them and help you have conversations with them in the future. So let's jump in. First is, what are the key elements or the key pieces of information that we get from renters, if you're pre-qualifying them properly, that will show you if buying may even be an opportunity for them, or even more so, if it should be a direction that you're pushing them gently in. And we'll also show you some tools that you can leverage to have these conversations in a second here. But what are the metrics that you're looking for that you get in the qualification process with renters if you're qualifying them properly?
Yeah, so I think I just want to rewind this. If anybody's watching this and you're working with renters, I think like you need to have a hard line in the sand of information that you collect before you start doing work for them, right? Like, everybody knows working with renters, obviously it's a shorter like sales cycle, quote unquote, or typically is. But it's just as much work, more condensed. It's like the number of showings, the amount of preparation, offers, like all of that kind of stuff is relatively equal to somebody purchasing a home. And so I think it's critical that you guys understand that you have to toe the line when somebody wants to be a client. Is like we're talking about somebody actually being a tenant and going to rent a property, not necessarily listing the property. That's a different thing. So we're talking about somebody actually being a tenant and renting a property first. You have to toe the line and have an amazing email template to say, these are the things that I require before I can even take you out on a showing, because especially in Toronto. I just want to say that here because there's going to be people watching from anywhere. In Toronto, if you don't have these things ready, there's no chance that a landlord is even going to consider you. So you need a letter of employment, and we need to make sure that you're past your probationary period. Like, verify that first. If somebody is making a decent income, but they've only been working at their job for 3 weeks, you're going to need to make a decision as to whether or not this is worth your time or your investment. Okay. So letter of employment and length of employment. And with their letter of employment, that's obviously going to typically include what their current income is. All right. So now you know how much money they make and whether or not they can actually qualify for a mortgage based on their personal income or household income, if it's a couple, etc. The caveat that you also need to take into consideration is, what if somebody is self-employed? How long have they been self-employed? Are they going to be able to provide you with notice of assessments if they're Canadian? Have they been in business for 2 years, right? So if they've only been in business for a year, probably best to like maybe just avoid the conversation, since they're not going to get approved for a mortgage, and push it down the line, because we know that we need 2 years notice of assessment for somebody who's self-employed to be able to qualify for a mortgage in most circumstances if we're talking about a lending, right? So we need income verification and proof through a job letter or notice of assessment if you're self-employed. The second thing is you're going to need a credit score.
And report.
Right? Credit, yes, sorry, I should say full detailed credit report. With the first thing that you're obviously looking at is the score. How strong is their actual score? And the second thing, if you're dealing with tenants, is if their score isn't as great. Like, let's say somebody comes through with like a 640. It's your job to look and say, why is this a 640? Is this person consistently missing their payments, or did they get smoked on something 5 years ago and they've made zero mistakes since then, and we're just waiting for this thing to fall off?
Yeah, and the other thing, this is kind of like going expert, but like you have to understand, mortgage brokers' credit score is important. But the most important thing for mortgage brokers is their earnings to debt ratio, right? So the reason you want the full credit report and to do a little bit more work is you already know their earnings. Credit report's going to show you their debt, right? So they could have a good credit score because they're always on time with payments. And this is a mistake I've made in the past. I've told people they're like a slam dunk to qualify. They had a good credit score, but earning to debt ratio was way off. So the debt that they had that was unpaid was too high, and their earning to debt ratio was no good. And so they were like, I sent them to my mortgage broker, and he's like, listen, they got great credit, but they've got to get these credit cards paid down, or, this car loan has to come off the books, whatever it may be, because they have too much debt. Even though they've been good at paying it, they've got too much, and we can't give them more debt or enough debt to qualify what's in line with their earnings. So that's another reason I always look at, like, if they've got maxed out credit cards, even if they've got a 750 credit score, you've got to explain to them you got to have ways to pay off this credit card. So do they have a down payment plus paying off the credit card, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, and sometimes the last thing that I was going to say is sometimes what you'll actually get access to is, you obviously know that they're going to need first and last, right? Depending on where they're renting, it could be a good chunk of change. But sometimes landlords will request even bank statements to show that they've had this money in their account for a certain period of time. So sometimes you actually even get like an insider look as to how much money they even have in their bank accounts. And sometimes you're surprised and they're like, don't worry, money's not an issue. And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this person has a great credit score, strong income. You can look at the debt ratio to their income, and then you see that they have enough money for a down payment. It would be foolish to not have a conversation with them about the possibility of purchasing instead of renting now, or at least lining yourself up for the next 12 months with them, to make sure, like, hey, wherever you're going to live for the next 12 months, maybe they're only slightly behind on a down payment. And it's like, it actually makes sense for you to go with the rental property that's $200 less per month, so that you can save the extra $2,500 for a closing cost or whatever it happens to be, so that we can line you up for your financial future. And now you're actually building a strategy and you're building a plan with them from the get-go if they're not able to transition from renting right now to buying, but they can in 12 months.
Right. So those are the three big things that we're looking at is like, do they have a good job? Right? Do they make enough money to afford a mortgage payment? Right?
Mhm.
Do they have a good credit score? Is their earning to debt ratio okay? And then do they have money in the bank possibly for a down payment? Right? With that last one, I'm not even worried about that because a lot of times people do have money that they don't know is money that's available to them to purchase. So I'm going to start the conversation if those three things align, right? Like if I've got somebody coming to me looking for a $4,000 a month rental with a 750 credit score and they don't have a lot of debt, we're
Yeah.
having the conversation.
Hmm.
Um, and the big thing is as realtors, we often make the mistake of assuming that everybody knows what we know. And you have to make the opposite assumption. You have to make the assumption that everybody else knows nothing about the buying process. And even those that say they know something don't know everything or don't know something that could be important to them, right? So the first thing I always talk to renters about is have you thought, the first question I ever ask is like, hey, you've got great credit, you've got great income, you've got a great earning to debt ratio. Have you ever thought about possibly buying before? Like why are you deciding to rent right now instead of purchasing? It's the
Yeah,
first
I
question
do
I
pretty much the same thing. I change scripts slightly to make them feel good about it. I'll say, hey, out of curiosity, I've looked at your report. You're like a slam dunk tenant. You're actually much more qualified than most tenants that we deal with. Most people that have this like profile usually buy homes. I'm just out of curiosity, is there any reason that you are deciding to rent versus what? And now they feel good. They're like, oh shit, I'm in the group of people that should be buying a home at this point in time because now what we've done is we've separated them from the average renter and put them in like the buying mentality qualification in that kind of herd. And so I've found when I use that type of script, it's just like out of curiosity, you're actually way better than most people that I deal with that are renting. I had to ask. There's no pressure one way or the other, but like you're really in like that kind of like buyer territory. Why are we renting right now? And then most of them, one, they either feel good about their current situation, or two, they're like, honestly, I don't even like thought about it. This was just kind of like the natural progression. I have to move right now, and I just thought I should rent because maybe I was scrambling, maybe my time frame is too short, etc. And now we're like in the conversation with them about that.
Yeah, because a lot of the times, like the big misconceptions that people have in the marketplace is that they don't have enough time to buy, just like you said. They don't have enough money, right? So
Yep.
they don't have enough savings. Um, but a lot of people don't know what savings could be available to them,
Yep.
right? And a lot of people think that, oh, I need 20%, or if they know they need less than 20%, they are still at a shortfall of the 20%, but they haven't, thought about strategies to get the difference quicker. And, I'm going to go over a spreadsheet with you guys in a second here that will help show them like, hey, here's the return they would get if they went out and found that extra $20,000 they might need, or what the opportunity cost might be if the market goes up another 7% or whatever it may be, depending on the marketplace.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you guys, current market condition, this spreadsheet doesn't work that well because, prices are actually fairly stagnant and interest rates are high right now, but we're seeing interest rates come down. And as interest rates come down and, the market starts to pick back up and the buying price, like the cost of buying goes up, it does look more attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when you look at the numbers on a spreadsheet like this for face value as like a monthly expense type of
yeah,
situation, it's like kind of hard for somebody to see. But if you think about the opportunities that are likely to present themselves in our marketplace over the next 6 to 12 months, especially given the current changes in with being a first time buyer and being able to do a 30-year amortization, being able to put down less money and what we think that could, the what could potentially happen with prices as a result of it. It's like renting right now might actually be on a month over month basis less expensive, but are you leaving equity on the table by not participating in the market and taking advantage of some of these things that have just recently been presented to us coming into effect on the 15th of December?
So here's what, this is just a pre-qualifying tool. So what are you looking to spend currently in terms of rent? Usually you'll know this, right? Like usually they've told you, hey, I'm looking for a $5,000 rental. And that's when like the alarm bells go off. Have you thought about how much you can say? Like, then I ask, are you planning to continue to save for a future down payment while you rent, right? Most people are going to say yes. Most people haven't thought about how much they're going to save, right? So I'm like, I asked them and I challenged them a little bit here. Like, how much do you think you're going to save on a monthly basis, right? You told like, and they're like $1,000 would be quite a bit for most people, right? If they're
Mm-hmm.
saving $1,000 a month from their income. So let's say they're got $5,000 of rent and 1,000, they're going to save $1,000. And then you ask them, how long would you like to buy in, or how much longer do you need to save before you can buy? We're going to put in 2 years. Okay. Do you already have some money saved in your RSPs or first time buyer savings account? Right? If it's no, great, fine. If it's yes, great. What's your credit like? You already know this, right? We already know this if we're walking through this sheet with them. It's good. And then asking them, do they have, between 25 to 35K saved for purchasing a property right now? Yes. If they say yes to all of this, or I already know all of this from getting their stuff, I want to do this sheet with them. So then we might look at like, okay, the condo they're going to rent for $5,000 a month. How much is it to buy? So let's say it's 1, 2. Okay. Annual property
You need a
tax.
few more there. You need a few more there.
Yeah. Not enough. Twelve
No, it's
thousand
not.
$12,000 place.
You got the deposit.
Property taxes are going to be higher than that now. Let's say 6.
For the condo?
Property taxes for 1.2, too high, right?
Uh, yeah, I think you're probably closer to 3,200.
I'll put the 3 grand.
All right. Meet in the center.
This is going to be higher. This is going to be like, let's say 700.
700, yeah.
So historical Toronto. So then what's the price appreciation? Historically, Toronto 7%. We're in a downward market right now. So I'm going to let you be super safe and say 6% or 5%, but let's say 6. Like I'm of the mind in this market right now where we are, we've got a little bit more push down, but then the market's going to bounce back as interest rates start to go up. Over the next 12 months, I'm confident that the market would probably increase somewhere around 6%. Minimum down payment they need to buy right now at 1.2 million bucks with the new rules that are coming into place as of October 14th. You have to remember they no longer need 20%.
December 15th. December 15th.
Sorry, December 15th. So it's 7.92%. A lot of people will tell you they want to avoid CMHC, so they're saving for 20%. Are they a first-time buyer? Obviously, yes, not obviously. I shouldn't say that. Interest rate's going to be higher right now. Let's say by the time they close in January, they're going to be able to get a fixed rate of, right now you're seeing 4.5%, let's say 4%.
Yeah.
But the bonus is going to be, it's also going to be able to be a 30-year AM. Okay. Guys, this tool won't look as great right now from a comparison standpoint as it will as interest rates come down. I was joking with Emma before this. The last time I used this tool with someone was when interest rates were 1.5%. So it was like a slam dunk, super easy, but it still shows them the comparison. Okay. So buying now versus buying in 2 years to save 20%. Okay. So purchase price today, 1.2. Purchase price in future purchase price is going to be 1.348 because of appreciation, and that's at 6% a year, which is below historical. So safe. Down payment required to buy right now, $95,000, 95,040 versus if they want 20% in the future, they're going to need $269,000. So the additional down payment they need to save over the next 2 years to get 20% is 175 grand almost. Okay. So mortgage amount, It's going to be slightly more right now, and they will have more first-time buyers mortgage insurance, right, of $44,000. So total mortgage amount is going to be slightly higher. The total amount they're mortgaging is going to be about 80K more. Okay. Land transfer tax is going to be slightly higher because the price is going up. We'll just keep lawyer fees, I think, the same. Title insurance is going to be slightly more because the price is higher. But total cost to purchase today versus trying to save with the minimum down payment, trying to save 20% is $178,000, $77,000 is the difference. Okay. And then if we look at the total monthly carrying cost, the difference is only $336 versus buying today and saving to get 20%. So what's the total opportunity cost of delaying your purchase by 2 years? You're going to miss out on the $148,000 of appreciation. There's good deals out there in condo land right now if this is a $1.2 million condo. Same thing with a house. You're probably going to appreciate 6%. Principal down paid down that you're going to have paid over the next 2 years is almost $65,000. Principal paid down that you're not paying down. That's rent that you're paying somebody else at the $5,000 that you're throwing away. Monthly rent expense avoided is $120,000. So you're no longer throwing away $120,000 on rent over the next 2 years. You're saving almost $6,000 in land transfer tax, but then you have the cost of you're now paying CMHC, right? And you have ownership obligation of $155,000 over the next 2 years. But you have a opportunity cost of $140,000 that you're throwing out the window by renting for another 2 years if the market goes up at 6% a year. So what does that mean for you? What does that mean? So like, let's say right now you're meeting with somebody that has $100,000 all ready to buy. So they need to find $33,000. Like what I say to these renters is like, is it worth for you? If I told you, give me $33,000 right now, and I'll give you $140,000 in 2 years, what would you say?
Done deal.
A slam dunk, of course. And if you went to your parents and said, give me $33,000 right now, and it's going to earn me $140,000 in one of the safest investments that there is, a house. Like I'm not putting it in crypto. I'm not putting it in an NFT. I'm not putting it in a stock that doesn't really exist and could go to zero. It's real estate. Even if the price goes down, I still have a great asset that historically goes up.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this is kind of like how I talk to my renters. Like if I told you like you need another 33 grand, we got to find you 33 grand to make 140. Is it worth kicking and screaming, fighting tooth and nail to find that 33 to 34 grand? They almost always say yes, right? And then now I just look at buy now and save thousands of dollars, right? So they need $133,000. Their total monthly carry to own the property is just under 6,500. So they need another 33. And they're gonna make 140 grand over the next 2 years. Versus paying 120 grand in mortgage over the next 2 years and still spending $6,000 a month for that rental. It's $5,000 for the rental, and they're saving $1,000 a month. Here's the problem, guys, and this is the thing that so like if they invest their current savings, 95,000, your potential 7.2, they're going to make this. This is your interest earned over that period. It is $2,500 over the 2 years. If they take the $95,000 they had right now, or 100,000. Okay. The big thing here, you have to make them understand if they're trying to save to get to 20% in 2 years, they're saving $1,000 a month. That's 24 grand. So they're only 436 more to own now. Are they getting 24 grand getting them magically to 310 to avoid CMHC, right? Or to not ask for money now, right? Because even if you look at the appreciation, they're going to have to ask for more money even if it's in 2 years. They can't outsave the market at $1,000 a month. And this is the conversation I have. It's like, it's really hard to outsave the Toronto market. So what are some ways we can find you money to get you that extra little bit more to get you into the market? Now, obviously, if the person only has $30,000, it probably doesn't work unless they've got bank of mom and dad to find $100,000. But someone that only has $30,000 saved probably also isn't looking at a $1.2 million property, right? Maybe they're looking at a $500,000 property. So let's quickly look at what it would look like with a renter that's renting a 1-bedroom condo for, I guess,
Probably closer to like 2,200. Yeah.
for $2,200 a month.
Yep.
And they're planning to still save $1,000 for 2 more years. They could buy the same condo right now because there's deals out there for $600,000. It's only $2,200 in property tax, and their maintenance
Need
fees,
to add a couple more zeros
I
again.
know, I saw, is $500. They need less to buy now. They only need 5.83% to buy.
Yep.
Interest rate, let's say it's the same 30-year AM. So what does it look like for these people? So if they want to buy with 20%, they need to save another 100K, right? They're missing their total down payment to buy right now is only 47 grand. So if somebody tells you as a renter, they already have 25 to 35 grand, can you find another 12K to get 56 in return? Like that's almost a 5x return. It's a 4.5x return in 2 years, right? The difference in carry cost between owning and renting and trying to still save is $200.
Yeah, and to be totally honest, the one thing that this doesn't actually calculate is if you the secret bonus that you get as putting down less than 20% is you almost always get a better interest rate because your mortgage is insured. So we're assuming that the mortgage rate is going to be the same across the
Which is
board.
not.
So it actually might be around the same thing if you get a better rate because the mortgage is insured. So it might actually not cost you anything.
Right. And their total carry costs versus rent and saving $1,000 a month, it's only going to cost them another $2,900 or sorry, $290 a month.
Yeah.
To own versus rent and save $1,000 a month. And once again, they can't outsave the market. Even if they save $1,000 a month, that's 24 grand, right? To get to 20%, they need another 100. They saved 24. The appreciation alone is 74. They can't outsave the appreciation, and that's at 6%, which is below Toronto historical appreciation. So you guys all have access to this sheet. This is how you use it. Like, guys, the interest rates aren't even great for us right now for this sheet, and it still shows a great opportunity for people. When you show people this sheet, and if somebody's got 35 grand and you can be like, can we find another 12 to make you 56? They're going to be like, you're right. 100%. I should be buying right now.
Yeah.
And they're no longer worried about saving that extra $1,000 a month. Hopefully this was helpful, guys. You guys all have access to that sheet. Use it, and we will see you next time.
And hey, listen, the last thing I want to say before we wrap up is renter leads you can get for free. This is one of the sweetest, and I'm going to leave you guys with a little open hook because maybe in the future we'll do a training on it. Renter leads for qualified people are one of the easiest types of leads to generate that cost $0 and anybody can do it. So if you like this sheet and you're like, I just need more of these leads to have these conversations with, in the future, we might do another training to show you guys exactly how to generate those leads for yourself completely for free.